test. To 148 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Brabham BT62, brake test. Ramp test. Test. To 141 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. For Hour of 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Lamborghini Sian FKP 37, brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 161 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Ford GT, brake test. Ramp test. Test. To 145 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Chevrolet Silverado, brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 123 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 2 out of 4, subscribe for more, and get goal and hit 30,000 views. Challenge, Maserati MC12 Corse, brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 145 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. out of 4. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 30,000 views. Challenge Lamborghini Centenario. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 146 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 30,000 views. Challenge SSC Ultimate Aero. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. To 191 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Two out of 4. Subscribe for more. Initial slash break. Ramp. Speed. Need a lift or him. Fail out of 4. Subscribe for funny goofy on Tesla LOL. How.
Volkswagen. Das Auto.
Challenge Dalmatian. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. .134 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 1 out of 4. Subscribe for more. Challenge AgustaWestland W139. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. IDK. Maneuverability test. Two out of 4. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 100 subscribers. Challenge Max D. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. .34 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 1 out of 4. Thank you for 100 subs. Subscribe for more. Challenge Airbus helicopters H125. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. IDK. Maneuverability test. Out of 4. Subscribe for more. Challenge Lamborghini Miura P400. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. To 148 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Four out of 4. That was so perfect. Subscribe for more. Challenge Renault Sport RS01. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 140 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Three out of 4. Subscribe for more. Challenge Ford Mustang GT. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 110 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4. Subscribe for more. Challenge Porsche 911 GT3 or Rennsport. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. To 142 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Zenvo TSR-S. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. .267 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 4 out of 4. Well done, Zenvo. Subscribe for more. Challenge, Ford Crown Victoria. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. .186 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4, subscribe for more. Challenge, Ford F-150 Hoonitruck. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. .233 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Four out of 4. Subscribe for more. Challenge, McLaren 650S GT3. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. 237 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Four out of 4. You're so lucky, treasure. Subscribe for more. Challenge, Swine and Dash. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. 132 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. 1 out of 4. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 400 videos. Challenge, Ferrari F50. Brake test. Ramp test. 38 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 400 videos and 40,000 views. Challenge Bugatti Divo. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. ...267 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Four out of 4, better call Bugatti. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 400 videos and 40,000 views. Challenge Porsche Mission X. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. 260 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Four out of 4. Subscribe for more and get goal and hit 40,000 views.
Challenge McLaren Solus GT. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. ...273 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4. Subscribe for more.
Challenge Pierce Velocity 110 Heavy Duty. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. Miles per hour. Maneuverability test. One out of 4. Subscribe for more.
Challenge School Bus. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. ...178 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4. Subscribe for more.
Challenge.
Kawasaki.
Ninja H2R. Brake test. Ramp test. Speed test. ...241 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. Out of 4, subscribe for more.
Challenge Corvette nicknames. Brake test. Ramp test. Test. ...236 miles per hour. Maneuverability test. For out of 4, subscribe for more.
Well done, all challenges completed.